do it in a great...
For tuning in, playing continuous country favorites, we are New Country 93.3, KKNU, your home for Rob and Corey weekday mornings. Back at it tomorrow, 5:30 to 9. We'd love to see you here.
Everybody's got a summer that they can't forget.
The questions he wants to ask as the few. One he wants to ask jurors is, if you saw a turtle in the road, would you stop and move it? Prosecutors said that seemed to be aimed at finding jurors who open to an argument that
We talked for hours and hours about sweet beer in a can. Moonlight on the waves, her kiss in the dark, the smile on her face when she made me break out of my guitar and play. I can still feel her fingers wrapped up in mine. Can still hear her laughing, see her dancing. You're making more than that sundress man. Who says you can't go back in time? Yeah, when that song it comes on, I'm on rewinding. I'm 17 again. Bottle rockets in the sky, bare feet in the sand, bonfire in her eyes. Cold beer in a can, moonlight on the waves, her kiss in the dark, the smile on her face when she made me break out of my guitar and play. I want you to hold my hand. I got a hand for you, yeah, I got a hand for you. I wanna run with you, bottle rockets in the sky, bare feet in the sand, bonfire in her eyes, cold beer in a can, moonlight on the waves, her kiss in the dark, the smile on her face when she made me break out of my guitar and play. I want you to hold my hand. I'll take you to the promised land. Maybe we can change the world, but I wanna love you the best that I can. Bottle rockets in the sky, the best that I can. Bare feet in the sand, the best that I can. Bonfire in her eyes. I wanna love you the best that I can. New Country 93.3. Had a shiny little baby with the ragtop down, sitting in the ground, but
students, and they're going to issue a ton of new shares to create control that Lachlan has from what his father had after his father dies, and yet still allow Lachlan to hold on to control the company. Is that
Quite the way Rupert Murdoch has run it. What, I mean, taking the family drama, the family intrigue out of this, David, what does it mean for these media companies, for the media empire that Rupert Murdoch built?
Well, in the words of Donald Trump, there's no one like Rupert, right? Rupert Murdoch has been a singular presence. He's built up this extraordinary global international company from a single newspaper that he inherited from his father in Adelaide on the southern coast of Australia. And he's done it with bravado. He's done it with, at times, recklessness. He's done it with cunning. He's done it with knowing when to push forward sometimes and when to have to retreat. And there's a real question. Does Lachlan Murdoch have those same instincts? Is he going to be a good manager, or can he be a bit of a bold leader as well at a time of incredible change in the media world? At the same time, what Rupert and Lachlan have been trying to sell to investors as well as to the court in the case that has now been wrapped up and settled is that there's a need for stability, and that Lachlan Murdoch can provide that most keenly in the question of the ideology that Fox News in some ways presents. Perhaps the most important financial part of their empire. It is, of course, gone hard right in the Trump era. And James Murdoch has, over the years, become increasingly uncomfortable, increasingly publicly vocal about whether or not this is the right direction, both from a business and a moral perspective. And he's been joined to some extent by his two sisters, Elizabeth and Prudence. And yet now, we now know there is stability. We now know where Fox News is headed after Rupert Murdoch, currently 94 years old, passes on. And so we have clarity, at least for the first time in years, as to what's going to happen.
It's going to be really, really interesting to see what changes and what doesn't at the Wall Street Journal, Fox News, and all the others. To NPR's David Folkenflik, thanks so much.
You bet.
Listening to All Things Considered from NPR News. 2 Palestinian gunmen killed 6 people at a bus stop in Jerusalem today. It was the deadliest Palestinian attack on Israeli civilians in nearly a year. The attack came right after the U.S. presented a new proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. We have more details now from NPR's Daniel Estrin. He's on the line from Tel Aviv. Hi there.
Hi, Alana.
Daniel, start by telling us what happened today in Jerusalem.
Israeli authorities say those 2 Palestinian gunmen stood at the doors of a bus that had stopped at a bus stop, and they opened fire. And videos show crowds of people waiting outside at this bus stop, suddenly running away. This was at a major intersection in northern Jerusalem on a road leading to Jewish settlements in the East Jerusalem area. An Israeli soldier and a civilian returned fire and killed the gunmen. According to Israel, these were 2 men in their early 20s who committed the attack. Their victims included 2 rabbis and a woman, according to Israeli media, and there were also others wounded in serious condition from gunshot wounds. No group claimed responsibility for this attack, but Hamas praised the attackers as heroic resistance fighters. The Palestinian Authority president, he's the internationally recognized Palestinian leader, said he condemned the general targeting of Palestinian and Israeli civilians.
Daniel, how is Israel responding?
Israeli troops have encircled villages in the area of the West Bank where the gunmen came from. Israel's defense minister said the attack would have far-reaching consequences, and he threatened to have troops invade more areas of the West Bank than they already have throughout this war. There has been an Israeli military crackdown throughout the war in the West Bank. There have been record-high detentions of Palestinians. Settler violence has been on the rise, and there's a severe financial crisis with Israel withholding funds from the Palestinian Authority. So there have been warnings among Israeli officials concerned about violence erupting in the West Bank.
Daniel, as we mentioned, this happened just after the White House presented a new proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. What can you tell us about it?
I spoke to a person briefed on the proposal who requested anonymity because they weren't is proposing that Hamas release all of its hostages on day 1 of a ceasefire in Gaza, and that there be an immediate negotiation toward ending the war, and that in exchange Israel would not go ahead with its plans to occupy Gaza City. Israel has said it's seriously considering this U.S. proposal, but a senior Hamas official is calling this proposal a humiliating surrender document. So this U.S. effort may not be successful.
And in the meantime, the war in Gaza goes on, and Israel is now focusing its offensive on Gaza City. Tell us the latest there.
Well, just in the last few days, Israeli airstrikes have leveled several multi-story buildings in Gaza City. Israel gave advanced warnings and accused Hamas of planting explosive devices or using these buildings as observation towers. Gaza civil defense group says huge tent camps for displaced families surrounding these buildings. Those tent camps were destroyed in these strikes. NPR's Anas Baba captured the aftermath of today's strike. It destroyed a 12-story office building. He filmed people caught in huge rolling clouds of debris. You see people caked in white dust, people trying to salvage what they could from their tents. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel today warned Palestinians to get out of Gaza City ahead of an Israeli ground invasion.
That's NPR's Dana Western in Tel Aviv. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
And at 12 minutes before 5 o'clock on a Monday afternoon, this is All Things Considered on KLCC, NPR for Oregonians. Good afternoon, I'm Chris Slayman. In today for Rachel McDonald. Coming up on the program, an inside look at how one small Vermont town is protecting its water from hackers. That story coming up in about 30 minutes right here on KLCC. We do have a traffic note for you this afternoon in the Junction City area. Oregon 99 is affected by an accident, a crash just south of Junction City at the intersection with Highway 36. ODOT says flaggers are directing traffic through the area, but you should expect delays and congestion. Again, that's the intersection of Oregon 99 and 36 just south of Junction City. In Eugene this afternoon, it's 72 degrees. Expect showers, possibly a thunderstorm overnight tonight with lows in the upper 50s.
On the next City Club of Eugene, a conversation with Eugene Mayor Karen Knudsen. She talks with KLCC's Rebecca Hansen-White about a range of topics, including public safety, flock cameras, homelessness, and efforts to provide more housing.
I'm proud to say that we have about 1,000 units, approaching 1,000 units of housing, affordable housing, workforce housing, market rate housing in the pipeline.
The City Club of Eugene, tonight at 7 on KLCC.
Support for KLCC comes from Peace Health. While change is constant, Peace Health remains devoted to community health and well-being for everyone. Information at peacehealth.org.
Support for KLCC comes from Bar Perlu, offering farm-to-table French cuisine, champagne, natural wine, and craft cocktails to go Monday through Saturday at 1530 Willamette in Eugene. More information online at barperlu.com.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Juana.
Kelly, Europe is the world's fastest warming continent. Temperatures there are increasing at twice the average global rate. Nowhere is this more visually striking than in the Swiss Alps, where glaciers have lost nearly 2/3 of their ice throughout the past century. As they disappear, NPR's Rob Schmitz reports that Europe's biggest rivers are losing a crucial source of their summer water flow.
Barbara Ochreiner sips a latte on a hotel veranda along a busy lakeside boulevard in Lucerne. The hot air over the turquoise water forms a haze that silhouettes the Alps in the distance. Ochreiner's moved from hotel to hotel like this one since late May, when she was forced out of her home. She had just begun a job as a manager of the storied Hotel Papa Alp, perched along a mountainside above the village of Blatten. She and her crew were preparing for their first guests of the season, when suddenly her workers started running for the exits.
And they really literally jumped into the car and left. And I was like, what's going on?
On a peak towering over Blatten sits the Birch Glacier. Scientists observing it noticed it was starting to slide down the mountain much faster than it usually does, on a trajectory so dangerous that they persuaded